In the Mexican city of Tláhuac, where the dense air of the metropolis blends with the rich cultural heritage of its nearly 700,000 residents, June 2019 would be marked by one of the most disturbing and enigmatic criminal cases in the country's history. On what seemed to be an ordinary morning on June 12th, fate would place police officer Axel Ruiz before a discovery that would change not only his life forever, but also shake the foundations of faith and trust in an entire community. Tláhuac, a region that had already witnessed its share of urban violence, was particularly tense during that period due to a series of kidnappings and murders of university students. It was in this atmosphere of collective apprehension that Ruiz, responding to a routine call from the dispatch center, found a solitary Chevrolet Tracker parked on a street in the ironically named neighborhood of Heroes of 1910. What initially appeared to be just another abandoned vehicle turned out to be the epicenter of a mystery that would grip the Mexican nation for the next 2 years. As Ruiz approached the vehicle, his experienced eyes immediately caught signs that something was terribly wrong. Through the fogged-up windows, a human figure lay in the back seat. The body, partially covered, showed clear signs of violence, bruises that told a silent story of brutality. With the efficiency that only years of experience can provide, Ruiz quickly called the investigative team and forensic experts, turning that stretch of asphalt into a meticulously preserved crime scene. The identification of the victim brought the first shock of many that were yet to come. It was Hugo Leonardo Avendano Chavez, a 29-year-old man whose life was a testimony to faith and knowledge. Known simply as Leonardo, he was not just another statistic in the growing wave of urban violence. He was a pillar of his community, a dedicated scholar, and, above all, a man of unshakable faith. The last time Leonardo was seen alive, he was leaving his residence the night before, heading to the Cristo Salvador parish located on Alfredo Bonfio Street. As a deacon for 5 years, that route was part of his daily routine, as familiar as the prayers he recited. The church was not just his workplace. It was a sanctuary where he devoted his life to serving God and the community. To understand the magnitude of the unfolding tragedy, it is essential to know who Hugo Leonardo Avendano Chavez was. With a degree in theology, he represented a new generation of religious leaders, educated young people committed to modernizing the church without abandoning its core values. His master's degree in psychotherapy and psychoanalysis from the Universidad Intercontinental was a testament to his quest to unite faith and science, spirituality and human understanding. The recent loss of his mother had left deep marks on his soul, but instead of shaking his faith, this personal tragedy seemed to strengthen it even more. Leonardo found solace and strength in his religious devotion, transforming his grief into fuel for even greater dedication to the church and his community. Even in the midst of mourning, he was planning his future, having rented an apartment that symbolized his transition to a new phase in life. A transition that, tragically, would never be completed. Father Francisco Bautista, a central figure in Leonardo's life and later in the mystery surrounding his death, was the first to notice his absence. The friendship between the two, which had lasted for a decade, was seen by many as an example of spiritual mentorship and companionship within the church. The concerned phone call from Father Francisco to Josue, Leonardo's brother, would be the first link in a chain of events that would expose disturbing truths beneath the surface of this apparent harmony. The subsequent investigation was notable for its speed and precision, traits not always present in Mexican criminal inquiries. The analysis of Leonardo's cell phone revealed a web of messages that began to unravel the initial narrative. The victim's last communications indicated plans to spend the night at Father Francisco's residence, a detail that would take on sinister proportions as more evidence came to light. The city's security cameras, silent witnesses to the unfolding tragedy, provided an accurate timeline of Leonardo's final moments. At 11 p.m. on June 11th, his vehicle was recorded arriving at Father Francisco's home. What happened in the 4 hours that followed remains one of the most mysterious aspects of the case. What is known for certain is that at 3 a.m. on June 12th, the same vehicle was seen leaving the property, following a fateful route to the location where his body would be found. A crucial element of the investigation emerged from the shadows of the early morning. At 3:49 a.m., a second vehicle approached the spot where Leonardo's car was parked. Its brief but significant presence added a new layer of mystery to the case. Who was the driver of that vehicle? What role did they play in the events of that night? These questions remain unanswered to this day. The autopsy revealed horrifying details. Leonardo had been subjected to torture before dying of asphyxiation. His body, free from alcohol or drugs, told the story of his final moments through multiple bruises and injuries. The brutality of the crime stood in stark contrast to the peaceful and dedicated life of the victim. The investigation took a shocking turn when the evidence began to point to the unthinkable. Father Francisco, Leonardo's friend and mentor, emerged as the prime suspect. Tracking the priest's cell phone revealed a perfect match with Leonardo's movements on that fateful night. The priest's attempt to leave the country just days after the funeral only intensified the suspicions. The Catholic community of Tláhuac plunged into a crisis of faith and trust. Groups divided between those demanding justice and others who refused to believe that a priest could be capable of such an atrocity. Vigils, protests, and demonstrations became a part of the city's daily life, while the investigation continued to peel back increasingly disturbing layers of the case. A crucial breakthrough occurred when investigators began analyzing Leonardo's finances. How could a young man without a paying job afford a lifestyle that included a new car, a rented apartment, and international travel? The answer came from the Financial Intelligence Unit. Father Francisco was the hidden source of those funds. In Leonardo's newly rented apartment, investigators found even more disturbing evidence: a high-end cell phone and an iPad containing compromising photographs involving Leonardo and 3 priests, including Father Francisco. These discoveries raised the possibility of extortion as a motive for the crime, though Leonardo's family vehemently rejected this theory, insisting he was a man of unshakable principles. Father Francisco maintained his declaration of innocence, building a defense that included alibis and explanations for each piece of evidence. He claimed to have lost his cell phone, suggesting it may have inadvertently ended up in Leonardo's car. He stated that he had spent the night assisting a member of Alcoholics Anonymous before going to bed. However, every element of his defense was systematically refuted by technical and testimonial evidence. In April 2021, after 22 months of exhaustive investigation, the Mexican judicial system reached a conclusion. Father Francisco Xavier Bautista Avalos was sentenced to 27 years and 6 months in prison. The sentence, although seemingly conclusive, left many questions unanswered. Beyond the identity of the mysterious second vehicle's driver, the true motive for the crime remains a topic of debate. Leonardo's family, while accepting the priest's guilt, vehemently rejects the official extortion narrative. For them, a deeper, more disturbing truth about what really happened that night has yet to be revealed. Father Francisco, meanwhile, continues to proclaim his innocence from his cell, supported by a significant segment of the Catholic community that refuses to accept his guilt. The case left deep scars on Mexican society, especially in the Catholic community of Tláhuac. The local church, once a symbol of peace and spiritual comfort, has become a silent reminder that sometimes the most sacred facades can hide the darkest secrets. The streets where Leonardo made his final journey remain quiet witnesses to that night's mysteries, while unanswered questions continue to echo through the halls of justice. The story of Father Francisco and Leonardo Avendano transcends the simple recounting of a crime. It is a narrative of betrayed trust, questioned faith, and hidden truths. It serves as a haunting reminder that even within the most sacred institutions, darkness can find its way. While Father Francisco serves his sentence and Leonardo's family searches for a peace that seems unattainable, the streets of Tláhuac continue to hold their secrets, and the unanswered questions linger like restless ghosts in the city's collective consciousness. The mystery of the second car, the true nature of the relationship between Leonardo and Father Francisco, and the real motive behind the crime remain subjects of speculation and debate. Like so many other cases that challenge our understanding of good and evil, the murder of Hugo Leonardo Avendano Chavez stands as a grim testament to the complexity of human nature and the secrets we sometimes carry with us to the grave. The city of Tláhuac, its residents, and especially the local Catholic community continue to search for ways to heal the wounds left by this case. Leonardo's legacy, his dedication to faith, his commitment to knowledge, and his kindness, remains alive in the memories of those who knew him. Meanwhile, The unanswered questions surrounding his death continue to haunt those seeking to understand how a man devoted to God could have committed such a brutal act against someone he once called a friend. The story of Father Francisco and Leonardo Avendano serves as a disturbing reminder that sometimes the hardest truths to accept are the ones hidden in plain sight, shielded by veils of respectability and trust. While earthly justice follows its course, the deeper truths of this case remain buried in the shadows of that night on June 11, 2019, waiting for the day when they may finally come to light.